So the Democracy Spring protests to get money out of politics have been happening for a few days now. And actually, they're continuing the rest of the week here. But the mainstream media in the U.S. has almost totally ignored them. So we go to Zaid Jilani and Lee Fang of The Intercept here. They report some facts on this. The sit-in resulted in over 400 arrests, a massive number by Washington sit-in standards. While the action, dubbed Democracy Spring, garnered wide coverage on social media and over 136,000 tweets, cable news programs found little time to cover the political protests, instead focusing largely on horse race coverage of the presidential candidates for most of the day. During daytime and afternoon news segments, CNN did not devote any coverage to the actions. MSNBC mentioned the protests for approximately 12 seconds, while Fox News mentioned the arrests and discussed the protests for about 17 seconds. Their whole business model is predicated upon, let me tell you the horse race angle of this. So you have Hillary Clinton said this. Oh my God, you believe she said that? And then Ted Cruz said that. Oh my God, isn't that amazing? Let's talk about them like they're celebrities, personalities. Let's talk about them. Okay, no, but the whole point of news, the whole point of your entire profession, journalism, reporting, is you're supposed to give facts, you're supposed to give data, you're supposed to fact-check the candidates, you're supposed to give information about the world, you're supposed to do actual news stories about what's happening. And when people are protesting to get our democracy back, and you have a record number of arrests in the process, fucking crickets. Fucking crickets. Now, this isn't the case with all protests. Anytime there's, some right-wing goofball protest, whether it's a Tea Party event and people are dressed like George Washington, or there's some neo-Confederate protest somewhere, yeah, that'll get some coverage. But God forbid you have liberals protesting on something that actually makes sense. Shh, don't talk about it. You want to know one of the main reasons why that is? These mainstream media companies are some of the biggest beneficiaries of money in politics. So if they cover this and if this spreads, they're hurting their own bottom line. Because where does money in politics end up? So it originates with Wall Street and big money donors and giant corporations, of course, and billionaires. They give it to the politicians or to their campaigns or to their super PACs. Oftentimes, a lot of that money, they end up running ads all on TV so that they can get their name out there more, and then they can lie about the opponent more, and then they can win the election. And then obviously when they get in office, they do the bidding of the donors who gave them the money. But a lot of that money, if they pay for it in the form of TV ads, well, the CNN is getting a lot of that money. MSNBC is getting a lot of that money. Fox News is getting a lot of that money. So there's a reason why there's that old song and that old saying now, the revolution will not be televised. Because, bitch, the revolution will not be televised. But as of right now, we have a new game in town. That game is the internet. It's social media. We have Facebook, we have Twitter, we have YouTube, we have other print outlets online. We have people who don't have that direct conflict of interest. So, are we going to show you what's happening? Fuck yeah, we're going to show you what's happening. Fuck yeah, we're going to show you what's happening. And they even say that it was covered in the mainstream press, for the few seconds it was brought up, as a voting rights dispute. So they didn't even say, hey, this is about money in politics. Hey, this is about corruption. Hey, this is about legalized bribery, which is a bipartisan message. They didn't even say that. They said, I don't know, something, voting rights dispute. So they're trying to minimize it, downplay it, or in the minds of people, they think, I guess it's people who are protesting to try to, reverse the move that the Supreme Court did recently with the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, which also is something that people should protest, to be clear. But no, this issue is a bigger issue. It's an umbrella issue that covers all other issues, but it's downplayed, scoffed at. It's just a voting dispute, something like that. No. We're fighting to try to get our fucking democracy back. Because as we discussed on the show yesterday, 93% of the time, in one election, another election, it was 95% of the time, the person who raises the most money gets elected. And, of course, that's because they can run more ads, get their name out there more, lie about their opponent. And when they get in power, they do the bidding of their donors, which is why there was a Princeton study, political science research, which found that the American people get what they want in terms of legislation none of the time. None. But if you're part of the elite, if you're part of the donor class, if you're part of, if you're the corporations, if you're a lobbyist, well, then you get what you want almost always. So this is a movement for all Americans. This isn't just for liberals. This isn't just for progressives. This is also for true conservatives. This is also for moderates. I mean, when you look at polling data on this question, most polls, it's over 80% of the American people say, yeah, money controls this stuff too much. And there's a reason why, even when we have consensus among liberals and conservatives, we don't get anything done. Over 90% of us wanted a universal background check for gun purchases after the Sandy Hook massacre. We didn't get it. Why? Because they're not listening to us. The Republican politicians specifically are taking money from the NRA and listening to them and the gun manufacturers. 80% of us want to raise the minimum wage. We don't get it. Why? Because even though a majority of Republicans want to do it too, well, you have the politicians listening to the corporations who are the only people in the country that don't want to do it. So this movement is right. There's no other way to put it. And yesterday, it was Elderly Folks Day at the Democracy Spring protests. So you had senior citizens who were there holding up their signs about getting our democracy back and getting money out of politics. And of course, the police ended up arresting them too. God forbid you're a senior citizen who peacefully protests to have their voice heard, bring back one person, one vote, make it so that our government is responsive to us. Well, we can't have that. We can't have that. So all the people who broke the record 2 days ago and getting arrested, all the elderly folks who got arrested yesterday, and all the people who are still there today, I want you to know we're with you, and we know you're 100% right on this issue. And what if the movement kept going and kept growing? What if instead of 600 people there were 1,000 people there? What if instead of 1,000, there were 10,000? What if instead of that, there were 100,000? What if one day somebody in the Capitol looks out the window and they see 1 million fucking people out there? They're going to start to feel that pressure. They're going to start to feel that pressure, and we're going to push them in the right direction. And as Bernie Sanders says, this isn't a movement about any individual person. We all like him. We want him to get elected, no doubt about that. But this is also about all of us. And even if he were to become president, he would say, you ain't going anywhere. You got to keep putting pressure on this government too. So this is what the United States of America is all about. This is the best of America. And if we keep applying pressure, eventually, even though it doesn't feel like it right now, but eventually we will win.